Bienvenue pour Topik Konversasyon. Aujourd'hui, dans Topik Konversasyon, nous pourrons adresser ça à Labi Seksyel, le bon enfant, bon mineur, bon enfant, sous les pamba 18 ans. Et ça y aussi avec les filles et garçons. Et ça y aussi, on a pour faire avec sous les incidents qui nous apprennent récemment dans nouvelle côte, il y a 3 hommes qui sont condamnés en prison après qu'ils ont été plaidés coupables pour abus 75 jeunes filles. Et ça, ça bon incident déroule pendant une période l'année, bon période de l'état. Et en fait, il y a beaucoup de réactions par public vis-à-vis sa nouvelle et aussi la condamnation sa bonne abusée. Et il y en a aussi spéculation qu'il y en a plus qui descend jeunes filles qui sont capables aussi subir sa bonne action pareille et capable d'en plus de monde aussi qui est impliqué dans sa bonne l'incident. Donc aujourd'hui de la cour qui m'y pour identifier et qui m'y ou comme les enfants ou capable de venir plus à l'aide le bon réseau social pour connaître pour identifier bon abusé. Et aujourd'hui, nous pourrons aborder ça dans nos topics. Et avec moi, mon clinical psychologist Marina SHAMOVA. Mais le fait que SHAMOVA, il y a un risque qui peut travailler Seksyel, donc il n'est pas tout capable de communiquer en créole. Alors, ça nous peut faire nos interviews en anglais. Et côté peut-être l'éclaircissement créole, je vais essayer d'éclaircir pour vous autres. Voilà, Seksyel, ou capable de texte, nous pouvons dire ou bien call nous. So, Marina, how are you this morning? Welcome to the program. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. I'm very grateful that you found time for this discussion because I find it already 3 years. I find it very actual for Seychelles. Because us psychologists are those specialists who face the problem as it is with all its severity. And in Seychelles, it is a serious disaster, actually. Because as
You mean a disaster?
Yes, of course, it's national disaster. I would call it only like that because just for you to have a picture, almost second of my customers, clients and patients, clinical psychologists have clients and have patients, have a history of sexual abuse in their childhood or early teenage.
So you mean in your clinic you do meet people or adults coming to you and talking about the incident, you mean?
That's another disaster that we are catching them when they are already adult.
So they are not coming to you to seek advice or help when they are being abused. They come after.
Yeah. Exactly.
But why the wait? Why, well, if you are being abused, maybe people will say that if somebody is sexually abusing me, then there are trauma attached to it. But why don't you come forward? Why the sit back? Why the fear?
I will try to explain you the reality, how it's going on. We are talking about kids, right? Children. Teenage, early teenage. At this age, child doesn't have enough of mental capacities and resources, psychological force, psychological power to distinguish that this is a serious crime made against them. That they are victims, they are not guilty in anything.
So most of them think that they are guilty then?
Yes, that's in all the world. This is the peculiarity of this type of trauma, that unfortunately victim is feeling guilty, taking all the responsibility of that adult who committed crime against them, take it on their shoulders, I would say. That's a specific phenomenon of early sexual abuse. And the third problem is that communicative bond between child and their caregivers, between a girl and mom or boy and mom, is not that really good enough for a kid or for a teenager to be open enough to tell about what happened, because they are not sure that they will meet understanding. They're not sure what kind of reaction will be there. And even more, I know a lot of cases here when person is already on therapy, and we are working with a lot of consequences, serious psychological consequences of this trauma. They tried to let the caregiver, to mom, sometimes to a father, to a sister, to siblings, they tried to confess that something very wrong happened, but they didn't meet any proper understanding.
So you mean that many of them tried to report it to their parents, and the parents were not listening to them?
Even more mothers who are living with that stepfather who is who has committed or still doing the
act?
Pervertive, yes, actions towards child, they have so-called denial. You remember we were talking about that last time? Denial is one of our defensive mechanisms. When we are not ready to accept a very stressful information, we can just deny it, as those mothers do. They say, no, how can you say that about my decent husband, about our wonderful person? Because, by the way, real pedophiles, they are quite socially adjusted, even successful most of the time. They're nice and cute people in society. So you can never suspect that. Unfortunately.
So,
and they are not seeking for help either. I will tell about that.
Pedophiles.
Yes.
So do you think they have a problem, pedophiles?
I don't think I know they do, because this is the... first of all, let's distinguish who pedophile is and who is sexual abuser.
Yes.
These two definitions, they have difference. Pedophile is a person who is sexually attracted to children or to teenagers only. Means they cannot feel sexual drive or libido and enjoy sexual interactions with adult women, or they do it as a formality to cover themselves in society, to appear usual normal men. Meanwhile, they don't have that real attraction.
So they are sick.
And they cannot, yes, they are searching for their way how to satisfy their drives. And for clinical psychologists, for psychiatrists, yes, it is that type of disorder which we call abnormal development, abnormal psychosexual development. If you wish, I can briefly. I'm afraid that it will be full of terminology, but I will try to explain, if you wish, in more details.
Okay, then we go to the abusers then. What are the differences?
Sexual abusers are people who use kid as either temporarily sexual partner for different reasons due to their serious mental disorder, any other type, or as a business, like in this case, which happened recently. So, sexual abuser is anyone who is perverting a child, who is doing any sexually related actions to a child, but not definitely attracted sexually to a child. So they were using them for business, roughly to say. But sexual abuser can be not a pedophile, and vice versa. Pedophiles can never commit, real pedophiles can never commit during all their life any crime.
But you know, Marina, for instance, a person is abused, sexually abused today, a minor, be it a boy or a girl. Does that impact on their life for the rest of their life? A one-time abuse can have a long-time or lifetime impact, or the abuse should be repeated. How does it work?
Well, I believe I need to give a message to some groups of our society right now here. They have such opportunity. I hope that some people who have tendencies to be abusive to kids can hear me now, and I need to tell you guys that yes, it is traumatizing even once if you make any sexual actions, when you break personal boundaries, physical boundaries with a child. Please don't be tempted to think that it is not harmful for them. No, it is. But trauma will blossom after years, after decades of years. It will have serious consequences. And if child doesn't tell you no, that doesn't mean that you are doing something not harmful or even good for them. This is your illusion. You need to understand it. Since today, you need to understand that you need to seek for help, and you are very welcome. But you should not lie to yourself, at least, that you are doing something maybe not that bad to a kid or to a teenager.
Okay, you've said that a victim will suffer long-time trauma. What kind of trauma, or behaviors, or psychological behavior, or physical behavior
it can be
manifest?
different. Normal consequences, they are quite studied well. So we conditionally can presume that after sexual abuse, history of sexual abuse, this person will have either this direction of clinical problems after, or this or that. But honestly, it can be quite different. Let's say people quite often come with depression to a psychologist, with mood problems or severe anxiety, phobic disorders, suffering quite seriously from different types of negative, persistent negative states. And when we start to dig the history, first of all, we need to find out if they had such type of problem in the past, which is that secluded part they don't want to reveal, and they never did usually, or they tried when it just happened. They tried to tell to someone, but they never met. Even more, they met laughter sometimes, or inadequate, absolutely more traumatizing reactions.
So can a victim have a good social life?
Of course, and they tried. They tried to compensate that serious break inside that wound. They tried to compensate it with better achievements somewhere, or adjusting themselves in a specific ways in society, or choosing specific professions even. So actually, a lot of them are literally dedicating their life to prove to themselves and to abuser, or to themselves only, that they can be totally healthy and happy. All their life scenario is dedicated usually, unless they had more severe case, more severe story of the abuse, and then they can end up with psychotic disorders. And
give us some examples of behaviors that victims of sexual abuse or rape manifest during their life.
People who have very bright demonstrative, so-called demonstrative traits of character, who become actors, celebrities, very famous people.
They are victims?
No, I don't think they're definitely victims, but it's just an example what kind of consequences they can have when they try to compensate that trauma.
So they strive to be leaders then?
Not
Maybe to
really.
prove that they are in control of everything, or they will sit back
Yes,
and take everything that...
control and some specific satisfaction, yes, compensation of some deficits in their personality, because early abuse at early ages, as early a problem happened, as more massive total trauma and consequences of trauma will be there.
It is believed that people, victims of sexual abuse or physical abuse, so what kind of abuse on minors, on children, normally the victims, they will display certain, the indicators, I would say, are eating disorders, sleep disorders, anxiety disorders.
You are very right, you prepared.
Yes.
Okay.
So how can parents or guardians at home be on the guard that there is a change in the behavior, then there is something happening?
Very simply to say, first of all, be very attentive to any changes which happened all of a sudden. But the most persistent symptom is the child avoids things which with pleasure did before. Start to be afraid or react in a very odd way to male figures around, to different men or to some specific type of men. They refuse to go to visit relatives if abuser is among, and most of the cases abuser is in
family?
Yes, in family or
In
neighborhood. Yes, yes. It's either father. I know it's not good news since the morning, but it's either father or stepfather, grandfather, uncle, cousin and his friends, or brother's friends. So quite narrow circle where child is living, and that's why I feel even more helpless, because it happened at home, I would say,
well,
domestic. Yeah.
Somebody call and say that he will blame the parents if there is an incident like this in the family. Say the father or the stepfather is abusing the child, he will blame the parent for that. Would you do the same?
Partly yes, because this is responsibility of parents to take a real care of a child, not only to feed them and to buy new dresses and to pay for school, but to train a child how to detect that something is going wrong, how to protect themselves, because you are not going, as we were talking before, you are not going to be shaken all your life, right? How my child will live this challenging life. You need to teach, train your child, and to keep that clear contact with the permanent normal feedback of what's going on. Keep that trustful relationship with your child. Otherwise, if you don't organize it, child cannot do that. It's the responsibility of a parent to organize supportive, caring environment in family for a child, when a child can say the truth and feel what is truth and what is really wrong.
The person also said that if a young girl have been raped sometimes in her life, and she had not reported it, and later in life she wants to settle down, get married, will that not, the raping incident, be it 5 or 10 years back, will it not impact on the relationship with the new husband? Or if the husband learns later that my wife was raped sometimes in life, how can this impact on the relationship?
It can, as I've told you, it can impact in different ways according to individual history of a lot of details which are included in that unique life scenario of this person and genetical predisposition, how to react to severe stress. But what I can say for sure here is that consequences will be there. That's inevitable. That's inevitable, 100%. If abuse in childhood happened, sexual abuse, consequences 100% will be there, and husband, as the most close person, will need to deal with that sooner or later. Because either if she is hiding and not telling him that something happened in the past, he will always have problems with her extremes in her behavior. Something will be too much in her behavior. Sometimes she will have depressive episodes as well, alcoholism or drug addiction, or any remedies to compensate that negative state, to heal the pain, which is coming time after time.
Well, I have a text here. Child sexual abuse have been going on in the country for a very long time. The perpetrators steal the soul of these children and manipulate their thinking, telling them that no one will believe them and that no one will ever love them. These children feel helpless and confused. Nowadays, sexual abuse is talked about more openly than before. Still, parents are not informed of how to deal with the complex issue in order to help their children.
Okay, very good that we're finally talking about this, because I need to give very clear tips for caregivers,
Yes, of
for
course.
mothers. First of all, you need to know that whatever kind of sexual abuse will go on with kids, abuser will always find a very reliable way how to cover his crime. Doesn't matter it is just sexual abuser or it is a pedophile. Any of them, they usually understand that they are doing something against law, and they are afraid of law. They don't have any other moral or other obstacles to do that. They will still do that, and they will do their best to make your child keep it in secret as long as possible. That's why it is difficult to make child talk. That's why you need to do it.
So this is why then we have 75 cases and only one who came forward to talk about it.
You cannot imagine what child feels being exposed to such type of experience. This type of fear and helplessness is it's a specific quality of it, because as I've told you, child doesn't have enough mental capacities and forces, resources to cope with any difficulties. And this is a severe stress, very severe traumatical stress, and they are quite easily manipulated. They don't know how to, they don't know what's going on with them. They cannot understand that this is a panic fear. They cannot understand what happened. They start to be easily still believing their abuser. There is another phenomenon of so-called Stockholm Syndrome, when a victim is trying to help themselves to cope with the pain, with something wrong which happened. They identifying themselves with their abuser, and they start to believe that whatever this person is saying has a very big authority for them. It's like I have no options to cope by myself, so I better will give up totally and believe you, even though I will convince myself that whatever you did to me was right, and and has excuses.
But in the case of Seychelles, well, we know that when we talk about sexual abuse, most of the time it is affiliated with men. Can women also be sexual abusers?
Yes, yes.
Do you have a lot?
They have absolutely another way to do that.
Women?
They usually it's again a very narrow circle of people. Mostly boys of early puberty period, early teenage, are exposed to sexual abuse, and it's women rape them less than men abusers rape their victims, but they do still sexual interactions which can be
unpleasant,
hiddenly traumatizing. It's like to affect someone not directly all of a sudden with something very wrong. It's to make it under more nicer cover, under let's say motherly care or any other type of women care, and still a boy will feel he will feel that sexual interest, but he cannot even say about that because there is nothing to catch her on.
Do we have cases like this in Seychelles?
Well, yes. Several were reported during our therapy course. Well, first of all, men, unfortunately, they are much less going to psychologists. And,
but it can also impact on their life.
It can, but in a specific way again. It works in a little bit another way. They will have problems in their sexual life, in their relationship mostly, and some kind of asynchronized development as well, like victims of men.
Somebody texts and says, we know that teenagers are having sex with teenagers. Can this also be sexual abuse, or can it impact on the psychological health or mental disorders?
That's already another story. Sexual interactions in teenagers will have it depends already who with whom. If it's to boys or if it's to girls, trying that type of experience, or it's a boy and girl, it's all different type of stories. And this is not abuse from adult, because as I've told you, adult person, that's why it is adult, because it has all the capacities to make decision and to realize all the consequences of their actions. I'm doing this, I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing that, and I accept any consequences of that. But two kids or two teenagers, keep a good contact and train. I believe all parents need to attend kind of a school for parents, or to get more skills how to create that communication to avoid a lot of problems.
Well, you work as a clinical psychologist. You do meet victims of sexual abuse who come to you. You say many of them come after the age of 18. When they are adults, they will not report to you. When they are minors, when they are facing the situation, they will come after. Have you met or have you dealt with any situation of men molesting men? I mean, minors, boys? Is that frequent, or is that common in Seychelles?
It's quite frequent, and one of the consequences is homosexual tendencies after to the victimized boy. You understand what I mean? They are under high predisposition to change their orientation from heterosexual, which were initially there, to homosexual. Unfortunately, cases which I faced here in Seychelles, they were quite severe, and consequences were also severe personality disorders, psychosis. So the most severe mental disorders happens to men, because men psyche is more vulnerable than females one. So whatever they exposed for in their childhood can have higher risks with more severe consequences for them.
Well, is suicide and can they manifest the trauma by attempting suicide, the victims?
Can, especially at the age between, let's say, 12-ish and 15. From 11 to 15, at this age is it's most sensitive age for suicidal tendencies. That's already a problem of family, right? Why child prefer to do any other, to choose any other rescue, even if it's death, than just to talk and to tell that disaster happened to me. I cannot come, because they cannot even call it disaster. They will understand it only when they will become adults.
But it's a situation that will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Okay, good question. With therapy, or with psychotherapy, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Mostly psychotherapy helps. Not all cases can be really recovered with psychotherapy. Not 100%, unfortunately. So sometimes the split of psyche is too serious and too deep. If it was for quite a long time, if another circumstances were quite harsh to this child at that time. Specific relationship with mother also plays a big role. And sometimes without any psychotherapy, some people can, with decades of specific experience and help, right help providing to themselves, they can recover, but usually it happens, can you imagine, at around 50s, 60s years, person says that only now I can feel free from that, the most tremendous event in my life, which determined, which changed all my life actually. Only
But
now
which is harder for a child to accept that they have been molested or sexually abused by, well, I would say a foreigner, somebody outside of the family, than to be sexually abused by a member of the family? Which one is harder for a victim?
If it is sexual abuse, both are equally hard, because it's already a fact of sexual abuse to...
It's breaking the boundaries.
Not only. It is a specific, shameful, personal experience which child is not ready for. Such type of child is not ready to meet such expectations of an abuser. Child is not ready to...
Can they forgive the abuser?
To carry it on, roughly to say, to carry some libido of this adult. Even there is no perversion, kind of, it looks like it's something very nice, and no, it's not. Unfortunately, studies proven it all the way, theoretically and practically, that it will damage psyche quite seriously. It's only the question of the time when it will be revealed for a person, him or herself.
Well, there are myths that people who are raped ask for it by the way they dress.
But we're talking today about children, right? Sexual abuse in children.
By the way they dress or the way they act, do you think?
Kids do not seduce anyone intentionally. They do seduce to attract attention as because of their need of care, parental care. That's why they're so trusting abusers, because they used to receive care from adults. They use that adult is someone who knows better, who is always right, and I need to obey. But due to your question, I have a question to mothers who have such tendency to dress the little girl, 7 years old, very cutely, make a makeup for her and post it in internet, not understanding how many people, men with abnormalities, can see that. I believe they need to wake up, mothers who are doing that, and understand that this world full of different people. And there is no need to expose cuteness of your child to all the public. This way, with makeup, with actually something which is more typical for adult woman, which makes her more sexually attractive.
Well, let's go back to the case, the recent case in Seychelles. The victims, they were sort of scammed by the abusers through Facebook, pretending to be modeling agencies. Do you think that parents or children or teenagers listening or watching us today, they need to be very more careful who to friend request, what sites to visit? How would you, what advice would you give them to be more careful when using social media? Because this is a getaway for the abusers to get their victims.
First of all, this is again a responsibility of a parent to organize a harmful environment for her child. That means including to keep control what sites your child is visiting, what is he or she doing there, not to be overprotective or over-controlling, because your teenage child will protest, rebel a lot. That's why you need to build healthy communication much earlier than when teenagers already coming. So this is parental responsibility to keep eye on where is your child, what is doing, just in order to be vigilant if child is exposing him or herself to potential bad adventures, any type of them. But another thing is that not anyone can become a victim of abusers and pedophiles. There are a group of risks of those kids whom abuser will choose, with whom his crime will be successful. Those kids are quite in a poor position comparing to those kids who will not be victimized. Poor position, I mean that they have less advantages. They are abandoned by parents, emotionally abandoned. Sometimes not only emotionally, but as more child is abandoned, less cared, as more this child will be tempted to receive this care from any other potential caregiver. Because abuser will declare them as a caregiver, that he is caring and protecting child even, and doing very right and good things. That child which is cared enough, had a good relationship with mother and total understanding, and have a normal self-value and self-esteem, not humiliated within family, not somehow devalued as a family member, that child will resist, and he will even not, or she will not attract abusers, because abusers, they are like predators. They can feel whom they can made their
Who they can feed on.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so finally, Marina, to sum up, how can a victim recover from rape or sexual trauma? Do they need to open up, to find someone to trust? How? What steps?
They try to do, but that doesn't mean that they're recovering, you know? As I've told you, it's quite a serious, traumatic event in their life, sexual abuse. That's why, unfortunately, as a psychologist, I see a need of psychotherapy, very big need of psychotherapy. And by the way, I'm afraid I will forget to tell this important information. For mothers and for caregivers, if you feel something goes wrong with your child, but your child is still not opening, but your guts is saying that probably my child could be exposed to something, and you cannot, by your actions and efforts, you cannot pull the information, you can bring to a psychologist. Let's say me, I'm having specific tools for diagnostics, even with kids earlier than 5 years old. We have specific projective, so-called projective methodics, when we can identify the child was exposed to something definitely abusive to them, sexual abuse. So feel free, it's your, as early you will do that, it's better for your child, for recovery.
We have someone who says that, well, he or she thinks that the authority should have name and shame the abusers.
As another measure, why not? I would vote for that, because
It should have been done.
much more efforts better to dedicate to make that propaganda for kids, to say he or she, he mostly did that, knowing that only good consequences will happen. There will be, as usually in any society, another problem. Some people will be blamed without such history, without any crime. You know that, right? Whenever we manifest one propaganda, another problem happens. So we need to be ready that we need to think wisely how to deal with that. And the wisest, practically wisest approach is relationship within family, between mom and child. The child can confess whatever happens to mom.
And maybe by not naming the abusers, it means that we are protecting them, and at the same time not protecting the victims. Well, Ms. Shamova, would you like to say anything to conclude? Maybe advice to the parents and the children, because we know the teenagers especially, they are very active on social media. To be very careful in the future, not to fall in the trap again.
Well, I am talking to adults now mostly, right? Kids just need to have any source of where they can call and anonymously at least confess, at least this way. But for adults to be conscious and reasonable, it depends to what adults. I've already actually sent the message to both to potential abusers and to caregivers, to moms. Mom need to keep the finger on pulse.
To keep watch.
Yes.
To be very vigilant of what is happening.
And to create
Good communication.
trustful, trust. This is everything.
Important.
We cannot do anything better. Trustful communication and train right skills. Train your child right skills, how to protect personal boundaries, how to protect themselves, how to identify that something wrong is going on, how to report, how to even talk to a potential abuser, what to say. So I'm thinking maybe I need to prepare a specific training for that.
Yes.
Separate one, dedicated just for this topic.
So you are based at your office?
Yes. Now, during lockdown, I'm working online, but Espace building.
Espace building. So anybody who wants to come for a meeting with you, they need to come at the Espace building, first, second, or third floor?
Second floor.
Second floor.
Let them call first, we'll see, because if they need urgent help, it's supposed to happen online, if we cannot meet for a while.
So you can be reached on Facebook?
Yes, Facebook, PSY Services.
PSY Services.
Psy Services Seychelles, yes, Psychological Services Seychelles, the page where you can get some information and ask questions.
So, Ms. Marina Shamova, I would like to say thank you for coming in the program this morning and for talking about how to identify if our child is being abused, how to help them to deal with the situation. All this has been highlighted today. Thank you for coming and for sharing experience.
Thank you for invitation. You're very welcome.
Voilà, c'est notre Topik Konversasyon. Alors, ce bon parent de la cour, mon mazine qui ont besoin pour un peu conseiller avec Ms. Shamova, qui est pour détecter et pour aussi mettre l'emphase là dans sa communication presse avec aux enfants, qui aux enfants avoir confiance à trust pour les capables de partager une mauvaise expérience qui peut passer et aussi avoir essayé d'identifier côté dans quelque chose de mal qui peut arriver et après si tu es dans bon beau-père, belle-mère, tout ça bon côté famille et même dans certaines situations il y en a pas papa frère mais nous avant-garde bien qui peut arriver avec nos enfants parce que la vie sexuelle pas persiste le bonne fille, mais aussi le bon jeune garçon. Voilà, c'est notre topic conversation aujourd'hui bon matin, topic pour nous vraiment réfléchir là, comment nous tous, comment individu, comment citoyen, surtout face à ce dernier incident qui est arrivé récemment.